It has spanned over 6 months, the ASUU strike has been, and that again has caused a lot of rifts, a lot of setback to the educational sector. And how the educational sector will redeem this setback is another huge challenge to the Nigerian government. And discussing the ASUU strike and attempts to close the gap, like I did say, if possible, a call of the strike today, I have with me, starting from my extreme left, the current chairman of ASUU, Uniben chapter, Dr. Ray Chicago. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
And next to him is the immediate past chairman of that same union, ASUU, Uniben chapter, and he is Professor Julius Iyasele. Thanks for coming, Julius.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and good morning, viewers.
Let me start with you, the current chairman, ASUU, Uniben chapter. A lot Nigerians got Monday morning, greeted by that terrific announcement over the extension of the strike by ASUU. SANU called off, NASU called off, and it was expected that ASUU should also follow suit. Where are we in terms of this as ASUU is still battling this strike with the federal government?
That Monday morning, the early hours, the wee hours of Monday morning, our union was compelled once again to extend that strike, this time indefinitely. That is predicated on what has transpired between us and government since the strike was declared on the 14th of February this year. Prior to the declaration of that strike, there was a memorandum of action that was signed between ASUU and the federal government in December of 2020, where the government had promised firmly that they were going to address all the issues that had been outstanding since 2012, when the 2009 agreement was supposed to be due for the first renegotiation. All through that period from 2012 to 2020, we had embarked on a series of strikes, all in an attempt to get government to sit down and renegotiate that agreement as contained in the original 2009 agreement. And government in 2020 had said by the end of 2020 they would have addressed all the issues. And so we waited throughout 2021. Nothing happened. Our union was poised to declare that strike in November of 2021 until the Nigeria Interreligious Council offered to intervene to get the government to address the issues. And so our union held back and then delayed that strike until February of this year, a period through which the federal government didn't do anything about all the promises they had made. The issues there are, one, the renegotiation of that 2009 agreement. And contained in that agreement are issues about conditions of service, revitalization funds for universities, university autonomy. Other issues that were also drafted in later on because of the circumstances we found ourselves was the deployment of UTAs in replacement of IPs. And also the question of the release of the white paper on the visitation panels to universities. And government had promised that they were going to do all of this. These are the issues that prompted that this strike was predicated on. And all of those issues, as we speak, none of them has been addressed satisfactorily. Although the government has gone ahead to try to divert the attention of the public from the main issues involved in this strike to say that the only outstanding matter was the question of withheld salaries. At the several meetings we had with government, the question of withheld salaries was never mentioned. And so it was a surprise to us that the Minister of Education went on air to say that was the issue that was outstanding. And if you permit me, I can take them one by one so that you can assess for yourself, and Nigerians can also assess If, in actual fact, as they have said, they have met 80%, Nigeria can assess...
Over 80%?
Over 80%. So
yeah, that's what the government said.
Nigerians can assess what they have done. So we take it one by one. First is the issue of conditions of service. Remember that in 2017, government, after a series of strikes, government eventually agreed to set up a renegotiating committee headed by the then Dr. Wale Babalaki. And Babalaki's negotiation took 3 years and nothing came out of it. After that, government decided again, with pressure from our union, the government decided and set up another committee headed by Professor Muzali Jibril. Muzali Jibril completed the committee completed their work in 2020 and submitted that report to the government. For a whole year, the government didn't do anything. In 2021, I mean to say, the government didn't do anything about that report that the committees had submitted. And then when we declared our strike, government said they were jettisoning that report of that committee that they set up and appointed the chairman and the members, and that they were setting up another committee, which they did under the leadership of Emeritus Professor Nimi Briggs. That committee again concluded its work and submitted in June of this year, on the 16th of June this year, that committee submitted its report. And what Nigerians will need to understand is that while these negotiations were going on, the Nimi Briggs committee had initially written to ASUU before they started meeting with us to say that they wanted to interact first of all with all the relevant agencies of government before they would come and meet with ASUU, which they did. They interacted with the Ministry of Labour, the Ministry of Finance, the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission, the Chief of Staff to the President. Everyone who was relevant to the matter was consulted, and they had reached a decision before they came and opened the meeting with ASUU. At the end of the day, we saw what government was proposing as the salary package for lecturers, and we sought to confirm that what they were presenting to us had the backing of the federal government. And so we didn't accept it at that moment. We said they should go back and confirm that this has the blessing of the federal government. They came back and said they have been authorized to go ahead and sign that document. Our union also met a number of times with the Minister of Education and asked him what Nimi Briggs committee is presenting to us. Are you aware of the content of that document? He said he was aware, and that he had even presented it to the president. The president has authorized them to go ahead and sign. And so when we met with the federal government on the 16th of August, 16th of this month, we were just expecting that everything was over. We had actually told our members that by the end of, before the end of this August, this strike will be over. Only for us to get there, and then they just came with a sheet of paper to say that this is what, that they have now gone back to consult the committees again, and this is what they can offer, and that we should take it or leave it. And everybody was stunned at the vote phase that took place on that day. And so what they are offering now, we rejected it on 2 grounds. One is that, you see, in the circumstances we live today, what they are offering now is less than what they had offered earlier on in 2009. In 2009, government had offered a salary package, but said that they were not in a position to execute that package at that time because of the prevailing economic situation at the time. Yeah. And that we should give them some time so that they can, get their acts together and then come back to that one. And that in the interim, they will draw up another chart that will operate. So that first chart that they set up, that they drew up, what they are offering today, 13 years after, is less.
Okay, thank you.
What is contained in that other one?
In as much as you've said this, but Nigerians seem to be growing tired, and for the very fact that you made a very fantastic presentation about what the pages are like at present with you and the federal government, your union and federal government. But some are also asking, shouldn't ASUU also shift ground considering the prevalent situation that we are faced with. You were the former chairman of ASUU, Uniben chapter, before Julius Iyasele. And now, what do you think about this? Don't you think if this goes too far, that ASUU may lose sympathy from Nigerians on this strike?
That would be very, very unfortunate. Because who are the Nigerians? Is it not the same ASUU members and their wards and children? Who are the Nigerians? Are they not these people that are caustically deprived of any social responsibility from government? Who are the Nigerians? Are they those who are not aware of the goings on in this country? I don't expect that. He mentioned that 2017, how Babalakin government led the team to negotiating table with ASUU. For 3 years, nothing happened. Why? Do you know that at that point, Babalakin had said that every child going to Nigerian university need to pay school fees? At worst, or at best, you need to take loan from government of over millions, that when you start work, you now pay. And we extracted it and discovered that there is no way this same government will actually release loan to students in school. They were just looking for a ploy to bring back school fees to students in the university. And we know the implications of that. We're going back to an age where only the child of the rich goes to school. People will not be. In fact, when we were in school, we were given opportunities now. There was a scholarship scheme, you had bursary award, and so many things to aid students to be able to go to Nigerians to be able to go to the university. Now there's nothing, and they are not ready to do it. You have heard now that everything followed the process. As it were, it was concluded, and we were thinking that government will be responsible. Is it not the Nigerians now that have seen that they are led by irresponsible governments? They are angry where
you can't say irresponsible government, but let's look at situations where it is being said that the demands of ASUU seems to be parochial and not for the betterment of the educational sector, but only for their personal gains.
How? Revitalization of Nigerian education system, is that for ASUU personal? Is it ASUU personal gain? I have mentioned here before that you get to the hostels where students live in on campuses, you will weep. There's so many of them that girls don't take their bath in the bedroom.
Is that part of what you are pursuing?
Yes, now that is part of funding the investment.
Okay. Let me have your say.
Yeah, I will add that I was giving a rundown of the issues involved in this strike.
Okay.
And I mentioned funds for the revitalization of Nigerian public universities. And the government, when they met with us, agreed. That's what they told us on that 16th of this month. Agreed that they will release 170 billion for revitalizing public universities. That money does not come to ASUU, has nothing to do with ASUU. It goes directly to the university administrators for the provision of these basic facilities, such as classrooms, hostels, and all of those. But they said they will release that money, but that they will not capture it in this year's budget. It's not captured in this year's budget. They will also not approve a supplementary budget for that sum this year, that it will only be contained in next year's budget, 2023 budget.
Does that go well with you?
How can it go?
No, listen, 2023 budget will become fully operational maybe in June of 2023, by which time this government
is out of
will have left office. Are you not seeing the dishonesty and the deceit? Is it not plain to everybody? They said the same thing of the end academic allowances, that they will release the outstanding 2 tranches, which will amount to 50 billion. But the same thing, it will not be, they will not arrange any supplementary budget for it this year. It will be captured in next year's budget. In February of 2023, there will be elections, and this government will be virtually out of office. And so they want to hand over the responsibility to the next government. And then the danger in that is that when that government comes in, of course, even Nigerians, everybody will cry to say that, oh, they are just coming, give them time to settle in and settle down so that they can attend to these issues. So it will be a grave disaster if we don't pursue this matter now to its logical conclusion.
Okay, for us to ensure that it's not towards person against entirely, let's look at when you will back out from the strike. If the revitalization fund is being committed to by the federal government, will the union call up the strike?
No, there are a number of issues that are contained in the agreement we have with government.
So that means the revitalization fund will not only, you are not hinging it on that alone to call up the strike?
No, it's not on that alone. It cannot be on that alone. We have told you about our conditions of service. And you have mentioned that Nigerians are worried. People say that children are at home, Nigerians are worried and all of that. When these students come back to school, and Nigerians also sparing any thought for the children of these lecturers who have been impoverished and pauperized, who have been on the same salary scale since 2009 for 13 years.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but don't you think this is almost unrealistic for the government to meet some of these demands, or most of them, or all of them, just now? Don't you think there should be some time where you give the government, some break to meet some of these demands? Because if you are saying that the government should meet it just now, that may be unrealistic. What do you think?
Philip, we read the papers now. We study also we listen to news from various media. Are you not hearing the mega box that is filtering away from different sources in this country? Have you not heard that Accountant General of the Federation alone is being tracked with about 109 billion naira? So what are we talking about? This you know how much a barrel of oil sells now? And then if you ask yourself a question, you find that no one kobo, as we speak now, is paid into our foreign reserve from this oil windfall. We had it in the past during the Gulf crisis. This same president was a minister of petroleum then. Now he is lucky again. There is another windfall because of the crisis, the war between Ukraine and Russia, and oil is selling at a very, very high rate, and no one kobo is going into our foreign reserve. I think the question Nigerians should ask is to ask this government, where is our money going to? What are you doing with our money and all that? That is the next thing we need to do. I don't want to preempt your next discussion on this platform, where you'll be seeing that only one man had over $334 million stolen by him.
Okay. You said only the revitalization funds, meeting that would not make ASUU to call up the strike. Now, let's look at the percentage, because there's been reports, even some Nigerians are saying that the diluted funds, that will be repatriated to Nigeria, the Abacha-related fund, should also be dedicated to this, despite the fact that there's an agreement between the U.S. and the Nigerian government on what it should be used for. Now, do you concur with Nigerians in that direction? And also, what is the percentage that you will say, yes, the government has fulfilled, that will make you call up the strike in all of these demands?
To go back to the point you were making earlier on about how unrealistic it would be for us to insist that all of these conditions should be met, is to avert your attention to the fact that these discussions didn't start today. As I mentioned, this discussion started in 2017.
Okay.
That's 5 years. Within this period of 5 years, any serious and well-meaning government would have done all that was needed.
In spite of the precarious situation that Nigeria is faced with. Don't forget there are other sectors that also demand attention, like you are demanding as a union.
Hold on. That is where we are getting it wrong. Because we need to prioritize two main sectors, education sector and health sector. If education sector, if we are committing enough resources and funds to education sector, all of these other sectors we are talking about will not experience the challenges that they are experiencing. The education sector will generate the knowledge the knowledge base, the manpower for all of these other things. I'll give you a practical example. Our union was charged with the responsibility of developing UTAPs. We have the manpower. So we didn't invest any funds to develop that software. Some other unions also were charged with the responsibility. They spent 90 million to procure that software. The implication of that is, if we focus on our education sector, we will produce the needed manpower to energize all the other sectors, and we won't have issues. Take, for example, our refineries are lying idle. We have Nigerians who have the capacity, and they have proven it elsewhere, that they have the capacity to compete with the best in the world. Our youths are brimming with potential and industry. We are only being held back by our leaders. So what we are saying is, the federal government, all they need to do is to prioritize education. Nigeria belongs to two groups.
Okay, back to the percentage.
What?
Round off from that and back to the question.
Yes, and I'll come back to that. The other issues there are the conditions of service and the deployment of UTAS. UTAS has been given to government free of charge. Government has admitted that eyepiece is imperfect. They have admitted that eyepiece was not tested before it was deployed. They have also admitted that eyepiece has loopholes that people have exploited to defraud this country. They tested all the softwares, and UTAS came a distant first.
Okay.
Government admitted that. What does it cost government to deploy that? It doesn't cost a penny.
It will be good.
The question is, so at what point can you say ASUU will call off the strike? Because meeting all the demands could be unrealistic.
What are the demands? Excuse me, let us return back to this, to basics. Okay, UTAS is a payment platform. Government, you don't need money to implement that. That payment platform, what we are saying here is that eyepiece is being used by some dubious Nigerians and foreigners to steal our funds away from this country. UTAS is specific for the universities and addresses all the demands of the university system. And so why will government now run away from that? Number two, for instance, why won't you come and release a white paper? Government, we kept on insisting that Nigerian government should send visitation panel into the university to find out how our university principal officers in the university are running our university.
Okay.
Are they running it well? Is there any problem? Please. It took some years to get government to send visitation panel.
Okay. As we round off. Okay.
So what is it that is a problem that you cannot implement?
Okay, as we round off, Dr. Ray, are you saying that the government should meet, does your union say that the government must meet all the demands before they call off the strike? No. I want him to respond because you have been tactically avoiding the question. So I want you to say that strictly.
Nobody is avoiding any question. There's nothing there.
When you present it in that form, we may be misleading Nigerians. The thing is that let Nigerians understand what the issues are.
Yes, now.
We said deployment of UTAS, release of white paper on visitation panels.
Is that money?
Conditions of service.
Yes.
And then funding for revitalization. I can stop at this 4.
Okay.
The salaries one, UTAS, we have explained to you, it doesn't cost the government a dime to deploy. White paper, the visitation panels have already come. They have completed their work. Just release the paper. They say it's ready. At our last meeting on the scene of it, they say it will soon be released. It's ready. It doesn't cost anything.
So that should be met. Yes, it doesn't cost anything.
At all. The other two things are the revitalization fund and the conditions of service. And are you telling me that the government cannot meet these two things?
The conditions of service, let me tell you, what ASUU is even asking for is less than African average. What Benin Republic here, what Cameroon and all these people pays their lecturer, what Ghana pays their lecturer, what ASUU is asking for is less than what they pay in all these countries.
Okay, as we round up, do you concur with some Nigerians that are saying that these funds, Abacha loot, should be geared towards solving ASUU problems, as in the demands? Do you concur, Ray?
No, what I will say is that in the agreement that we are asking the government to sign, we have provided sources of income to fund the agreement.
So you are sticking to that?
So what the implication is that it is easy. We have told the same way we told government about tech fund that is operational across the country in state and federal universities. We have also given them information, ideas about how they can generate the funds to fund this agreement.
Okay, how soon are you engaging the federal government to look at ways to call up the strike?
No,
how soon?
Our union is always open to discuss, to engage with government, to interrogate the issues as they come. So whenever the government feels ready to call us for negotiation, we are open for negotiation.
At present, is there any meeting you are looking towards this week?
No.
With the federal government?
No. If you remember, after the meeting that, after the Minister of Education's address, he traveled out of the country, and I'm not aware that he's back.
Okay.
The point I'm making is that we are ready to make concessions. We have already even made concessions, even in that document we're talking about, because they won't even bother to read it. We had removed some responsibilities from the federal government and entrusted them to the local university council.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ray Chikogu, and big thanks to you, Professor Julius Iyasele, for taking our time on this discussion. This will call it a wrap on this segment, and shortly we come with the next segment, which will be on the Abacha loot being repatriated to the country. Do stay.